The UK government is moving to create a legal framework that will exclude trans people from single-sex spaces, and you can imagine what kind of lead balloon this went down like, with a certain kind of activist lobby. But before we begin, if you want to support us, you can go to lotus.com and check out our J.R.R. Tolkien collection that's been done by John. John is an amazing reader, got an amazing voice, and we love Tolkien here. And so he's been going through Tolkien's poems that you may not be aware of. These are free, actually, so you can go check them out on the website. But if you do want to support us, you can subscribe and get access to all of our great premium content. Anyway, so trans people can be legally excluded from safe-sex single-sex... I'll start that again. Trans people can be legally excluded from single-sex spaces if justifiable, say the Equality and Human Rights Commission in Britain. That's a hell of a good start.
It's loose, though, isn't it? Sufficiently good reason. It reminds me of the sort of online harms bill. Look, it's important that I think they've taken a measure of the temperature of the nation.
Yeah.
And actually, I think people are generally. I mean, I get this in life, and I'm sure you do as well. I walk through life, and people come up and say, "Thanks for doing what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're saying." You just talk a lot of common sense. But this, they've obviously taken a sniff and gone, "Oh, that's probably not a great analogy." They've taken the temperature of the nation and gone, "Look, this is ridiculous." In America, they've had rapes in.
We'll get to this.
I really, God,
I'm well prepared.
We're literally like zoomed into each other.
Yeah, I know. You're well ahead of the narrative here. But no, you are absolutely right. Of course, I agree with you. I think the government is basically looking at this and going, "Look, okay, we're being asked to accept things that have negative consequences for vulnerable people."
Well, it's a horrible. As I was saying to you before, I was watching a concert at a school, and my fiance leaned over to me and she went, "You see that girl second on the left? That's a bloke." And I went, "What?" 10-year-old boy, fully dressed as a girl, and I'm like, "Where is this kid going to go from here? What options has he got?" It's either a withering climb down to say, "You know what, it was just a phase I was going through," or it's, "I need some puberty blockers while I make up my mind." Yeah. It's almost like the minute you allow it as a parent, and this is why I feel it's child abuse by the parents, is the minute you allow it, that child doesn't really have a chance to move. And I'm not saying there aren't gender dysphoric children, there are. And I'm not saying you don't get camp boys and sort of quite butchy, feminine, masculine girls, but there is a clear distinction. Yeah. And as a parent, it's your responsibility and your job to really make sure that your child knows that, because this child now is in a position where, where does it go? I mean,
imagine, 90% of gender dysphoric children apparently evolve out of this during puberty.
And become gay, and a lot become gay.
Or just become normal, just become straight. And so imagine if you were that 10-year-old who's dressing and acting like a girl, and by 16 you're a regular boy. You're going to be like, why did you let that happen? I was 10. I don't know anything. I'm not the author of my own thoughts. I'm not like, someone who's responsible with the decision making. And imagine if it gets worse and they, like with Keira Bell, incidentally.
Yeah.
They end up having was it memosectomy or something?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Top surgery, they call it.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
And it's just like, right, so you've cut off a teenager's breasts for ideology.
But don't worry, the former Archbishop of Canterbury says that makes you whole.
Which
Rowan
doesn't
Williams.
make any sense anyway.
I'm not sure chopping off your meat and 2 veg is going to make you whole.
Yeah. You have to remove parts of your body to be whole, do you?
I totally support anyone's right to if they want to do whatever they want to do to them. But as you've just said, as a child, it's parental abuse.
Yes.
But I've got no issue with trans. I don't have any issues with anything really.
No, but it's just you're not able to make informed decisions as a child.
But did you see that's again what the government did in terms of the vaccination programme by bringing forward this Gillick competence thing? It's like, yes, you can, and maybe you can have a meeting with the school to tell you that you feel like a girl, and we don't need to tell mummy and daddy about it. The minute the state starts doing that, I am at war with the state.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely wrong. But anyway, right, let's carry on. So the Women's and Equality Committee in the House of Commons were asking the Equality and Human Rights Commission, we need some clarification. We need to know what the hell this is all about, because of course this is deeply confusing for everyone. And so they were like, yeah, well, maybe it's appropriate to exclude trans people from single-sex spaces with sufficiently good reason. And there are lots of things that are good reasons, in my opinion. How do you think Stonewall took this?
I'm sure Stonewall will have taken it in a very moderate, balanced way, fair-handed way. I feel really sorry for Stonewall, because once the gay thing was done, they're like, I need a new issue.
Yeah.
So, what did they say? You tell me. But I imagine it'll be something like, this is the worst piece of transphobia in the history.
Well, I think if we quiet for a sec, we can still hear the screeching from London at the moment, right?
I can hear it.
So Stonewall has said, this advice will likely lead to more confusion and a greater risk of illegal discrimination. Well, it won't be illegal if it's legal. And the idea that Stonewall are going to accuse other people of causing confusion, I mean, that's a bit ironic, isn't it?
Mm.
The examples appear to encourage blanket bans rather than by case-by-case decision-making, and cover restricting access to day-to-day settings like bathrooms and gym classes, which is extraordinary. No, it's not extraordinary. It was totally ordinary 10 years ago that someone who had a penis wasn't going in the women's bathroom.
Yeah.
It's just totally ordinary. Like, we're about the same age. This never came up when you were a kid, would it?
No, never. But it's about the binary. It's about saying, what's the first thing a child really works out? It's like mama, dada. It's that sort of thing. Yeah. So if you go, well, no such thing, mate.
Yeah, like, I don't know what you're talking about, kid.
But this is the foundation of my understanding of the world. Tough.
Yeah, actually, you're a girl. Now let's get you hormone blockers. Like, it's mad.
Easy.
Yeah.
Why do they do it? My dad always says it's the means, not rather than the ends. He says they don't really care what happens. It just causes the chaos as much as possible, relentlessly.
Oh, I think that's absolutely right. And it's to essentially validate their exercise of power. It's so they can be like, look, you're doing what we say. You have to agree to these things. And they don't care the damage they do. But so Stonewall and other groups recently urged the United Nations to review the EHRC's accreditation, international accreditation. So they're like, oh, you need to get the EHRC discredited by the United Nations. But the thing is, this was refused because they were like, don't be so salty.
Yeah.
And so that's good. And so the chairwoman of the EHRC is Baroness Kishwar Faulkner, who said it was their mission to ensure that people across Britain are treated fairly. Where rights between groups compete, our duty as an independent regulator is to help providers of services and others to balance the needs of different users in line with the law, which is fine. And so I think we would just take a look at what the examples are and what the guidance is anyway, because that's, again, like, it's a totally sober and reasonable perspective from the EHRC here. As in, it's obviously been done in good faith, right? But so this is the guidance that the government gives us. When can you provide a separate or single-sex service? And so you can only do this if a joint service would be less effective, and providing that service is a proportionate means of achieving a legitimate aim. Which, doesn't say a lot, does it?
That sounds like legal speak to me.
Yes. If you're providing a service to only one sex and not to the other, you must be able to meet the following conditions. 1, people of that sex need the service, such as period pads, or something like that. Men never need this. People with penises never need this. Or number 2, providing the service jointly to both sexes would not be sufficiently effective. I don't know. You were opening a gym or something, a women's only gym, and you had to have a men's only gym, but you only could afford a quarter of the equipment or something, so it wouldn't be an effective gym. Something like that. In fact, there's an example. If women of a particular religion or belief will not use the local swimming pool at the same time as the men, women-only swimming sessions could be provided as well as mainly mixed sessions. Number 3 is the level of the need for services makes it not reasonably practical to provide separate services for each sex. For example, a woman-only support unit for women who have experienced domestic or sexual violence can be set up even if there is no parallel men-only unit because of insufficient demand. I think there probably is demand.
Oh, there really is demand.
For men-only ones, but I guess the government doesn't care about that. But the religious preference is accepted. But what's interesting, right, is we've got quite an easy barrier to what is and what isn't reasonable. To prevent rape is very reasonable.
Extremely reasonable.
And there are lots of examples of why this needs to be done. For example, in prisons. You shouldn't put people with penises in women's prisons. Because rapists, who, I don't know whether they were transgender before they became rapists, but who, when they go to prison, say, I'm transgender, send me to the women's prison, will continue to rape. As Miss Karen White has shown us. Karen White was obviously legally still male, her convicted paedophile and multiple rapes against women, sexually assaulted other inmates while she was in prison. In
America, they've had pregnancies and births in all female wings of prisons. The problem here is, which is really dreadful, is that you're taking your average trans person is going to have normal political views. They just happen to be trans, and that it's not the centre of their identity. They've got much more going on. So this is abusing a very small minority of the population, and making those people vulnerable. And that, I think, is utterly disgusting, because that is a
so using them as a meat shield.
Yeah,
exactly. We're hiding behind this. Attack the trans person rather than the ideology behind it. Because, I mean, like, you get people like Blair White and just, Rosa Dawn, who's like, no, obviously, you don't want to open the door to abusers like Karen White.
Yeah.
If anyone can just say, I'm a woman now, put me in the women's prison. What, this rapist?
Yeah.
Literally this rapist gets put into a women's prison and continues to rape. What a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be done. But anyway, return to the guidance. Number 4 is the services provided at a hospital or the place where users need special care, supervision, or attention. For example, single-sex wards in hospitals and nursing homes to stop rape. Mm. Again, there's another example.
Did that happen recently?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah. It was disgraceful, actually.
Horrible.
So this was a hospital that dismissed the claim of rape by a trans attacker, saying there were no men in the ward. There was, quote, no male there, so the rape could not have happened.
I mean, jeepers creeper. And they tried to cover it up for a year.
Yeah, this went on for over a year.
Yeah. And we just wander off, don't we? We just go, oh, well,
It's disgusting. And thank God there was CCTV in the hospital that caught the rape in progress.
Yeah, but they tried to cover it up for a year.
Yes, they did.
This is how what about Sarah Everard?
Yep.
We went, that guy was found, Wayne Couzens was found in minutes,
Yep.
But with this weird sort of ideologically based stuff, no, we can cover that up
because
for a year.
the perpetrator has a protected class. And so he's not just invisible to the ideology. He is someone to be, guarded
by the Equality
activists.
Act.
Yeah.
By the Equality Act, which is, it's terrible, the Equality Act for that. I love the fact there's an Equality Act, and inside the Equality Act there are protected characteristics. It just makes me giggle.
It's mad, isn't it? But they're literally telling rape victims that they're not rape victims.
Yeah, you weren't raped, sorry, because there was no male there.
Isn't that just... I mean, it just sounds so patriarchal, doesn't it? It just sounds so patriarchal. This rape victim, she wasn't raped. Don't be silly. It was consensual or something like that.
There were only lasses in there. It was young girls. It was girls'
Yeah, exactly. It can't have been rape. But yeah, so this took a year for the hospital to actually admit that yes, there was a male on the ward and yes, a rape occurred because of the CCTV footage. Without that, this woman would never have got justice. But anyway, returning to the guidance. Number 5 is the service is likely to be used by more than one person at the same time, and a woman might reasonably object to the presence of a man, or vice versa. For example, separate male and female changing rooms. Why might this be necessary?
Rape?
That's right, to stop rape. The example of this, what we're going to use is the Loudoun County, Virginia cover-up. We covered this on a premium podcast on lotus.com because it was something that we were suspicious about putting on social media, frankly. But yeah, obviously this was a trans student who raped 2 girls, teenage girls, and the board covered it up because protected characteristic. There's no male involved, therefore it can't be a rape. But anyway, returning to the guidance, number 6. A person might reasonably object to the service of the user being the opposite sex because the service involves physical contact. For example, a sports session involving a high degree of physical contact or any service involving intimate personal health or hygiene. This includes sports, obviously. And we have, of course, a wonderful example of that. Do you know who Fallon Fox is?
I do know who Fallon Fox is. He is a UFC fighter.
Yes, an MMA fighter.
And MMA fighter, and has... What's the... Sharon Davis is great on this style, but has broke someone's...
That's
skull,
correct.
Did
And yeah, as was reported by the Western Journal, was described as the bravest athlete in history.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's great. It's like me fighting a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And beating up a 5-year-old and being called Dad of the Year.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it's disgusting. Yeah. So Fallon Fox broke the skull of the woman that she was fighting, and then got called the bravest athlete in history by Vox's Outsports blog, which is just amazing. It's just absolutely incredible. So yeah, maybe women should be protected from all
From
this.
men?
Yeah, from men.
Seeing as they're men, like the attorney, the deputy, the man of the year, woman of the year, who's a man.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. It's mad.
It is, but there's no question that there are demonstrable negative effects from allowing people who are male into women's spaces.
There really are. This the only time I can ever think, look, this makes sense, is when I go to a London theatre and it's the half time, the interval, and everyone needs a pee. And I feel really sorry for the women because the queue is huge outside their loo. And I do feel sorry for them. So, maybe you just need to build more women's loos in places.
Yeah, I mean, the alphabet people on Twitter had thoughts about this.
What do the alphabet people say?
They're not happy about it.
No, why?
I know. Well, this is going to out trans people, as if people can't tell. Sorry, don't know what to tell you.
What are you outing? You've outed yourself by being transgender.
Yes.
If you think we're missing out on the Adam's apple, darling, it's
giant hairy male hands. It's like, yeah, okay.
And your massively broad shoulders. Then, I mean, I haven't been to Thailand, so actually I've been to Thailand, but I've never seen. I'm told there are some very, very convincing.
I can imagine that there are.
But
yeah, this one, anyone claiming this policy being enforced wouldn't force trans people to out themselves in order to participate in public life is lying, and they know they're lying. It's like, I don't care. I'm sorry.
What?
I want fewer rapes.
I want fewer rapes, and what can I possibly do to please you?
Exactly.
It's like you cannot have 99.96% of the population walking around trying to pacify 0.04% of the population.
Yeah.
That's why they're trying to increase the numbers.
Yeah, they absolutely are. They're certainly trying. But I just don't care. Unfortunately, they're going to have to live as trans people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
What can you do?
It's the COVID of gender ideology.
Yep.
99.9% survival rate.
Yeah. Why not just have public bathrooms is the next suggestion. As in, why doesn't just everyone share a bathroom? And it's like, yeah, because women don't want that.
It's also, they do it in London everywhere, and it's not nice because you instinctively as a man, maybe it's just because I'm a man of a certain age now, I walk into one of these things and there's a woman washing her hands and I feel like I've invaded her space.
Yes.
Even if she's washing her hands.
Yes.
I'm like, oh God, what if a woman comes out of a door?
I've accidentally walked into women's bathrooms before and felt awful.
Yeah.
Like, just feel like a terrible intruder.
Women need protect. One of the male's job is to protect women. That's why we got bigger muscles.
Yes, and it's fine for women to have spaces away from men, and I think it's fine for men to have spaces away from women. Bring back the working men's clubs, man.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
It's very patriarchal.
But the person who's done this, I love it. Again, it's just if you can get the next one, sorry, this Rose Schmidt's actual woman. Who needs to write actual woman?
Someone who isn't an actual woman.
That's right. The transphobic rhetoric from EHRC and the UK government is unforgivable. If we go to the next one. As a trans woman, I will continue to use the women's bathroom till the day I die. As a man who really hates women, so will I. For the same reason.
It's properly misogynistic.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like, I don't care whether you want me in your space. Yeah. I'm a real woman.
Yeah.
You're not. You're a man.
Yeah. I hate to tell you this, but it's just I just don't agree with the premise that trans women are women.
No,
I just don't agree with that.
I stupidly a trans woman is a
verified. Yeah.
A trans woman is a trans woman.
Yes.
I mean, but I go a bit harder at it now because I'm just getting a bit tired of it, and I'm going, a trans woman is actually a man.
Yeah.
Did
you see
biological man?
Keir Starmer's wonderful attempt to defend this position?
Oh my God.
He was brilliant. He was like, women are adult women. He said are adult females, and trans women are women. And it's like, yeah, but Keir, that actually is completely nonsensical. Because if woman is adult female, that means we can just replace the word woman with the words adult female. So he's like, trans adult females are adult females. And it's like, yeah, but that also destroys the trans argument, because what you're saying is trans adult females, as in adult females who think they're men, are adult females. So they're not trans. Like, they're not men. They're still women. And so you've just... It's like the brain of these people is tiny and can be put into a little box and should be put on display for being so smooth. It's incredible.
It's the leader of the opposing party in Great Britain cannot tell you what a woman is.
Yeah.
And they want to be in charge?
Yeah.
I mean, Boris, to be fair to him, he got it a bit better, but then they gave it to Rishi. To be fair, Rishi had been given a slap that morning when he said, "How come your wife's made 12 million quid out of Russia in the last year?" But then Rishi was just sat there going, "I've said what I want to say about it, and I've said what I want to say about it."
Yeah.
The Prime Minister said, "I'm like, why can't you? Why are you trying to alienate 51% of the electorate?
Yeah.
Why do you hate them?
Yeah.
Why do you hate? You're scared of 10 people on Twitter."
Exactly. They're scared of the media and they're scared of Twitter. That's what they're afraid
Yeah.
of. And the thing is, the Conservatives should be taking the Donald Trump approach and just be like, no, all of these people are wrong and we don't care about their opinion because we get massive amounts of votes.
Yeah.
Like, we don't care about them and we're going to do the right thing. That's what the Conservatives should be doing in all times and in all places. But anyway, yeah. So any last thoughts on this one?
I find it astonishing that basically any piece of legislation which is brought in that has the intention of doing something, you can just take the word and flip it around. The Equality Act is not the Equality Act; it's the Inequality Act. I can understand how people feel it's used as a shield. It should be used as a shield, but it's been used as a sword by these very small minority activist groups who, the bit I don't understand is why politicians are so scared of them. I mean, I can understand myself. I get to speak I've always spoken freely, but it's almost like you have to get to completely cancelled before you can express your view.
Yeah.
So I think they're probably going, look, if I can stay somewhere in the nebulous nether regions of this topic, probably about your choice of word again, then maybe I'll be able to please everybody.
Yeah.
That's not what conviction is, though.
But also, I don't think it works.
No.
I don't think that's the issue. I think you're absolutely right. It's a tiny amount of people on Twitter that get an oversized presence in their mind because the politicians themselves are on Twitter. If the politicians weren't on Twitter, they wouldn't see this stuff. They wouldn't know that people on Twitter were saying, "Oh, he's a transphobe, blah, blah, blah," and they'd be getting loads more votes.
They hate that word phobe, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm a real hater of that word, phobe.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm a phobe.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Contemplation series that Josh does, this one between Josh and Thomas, on the philosophy of aesthetics. Also, if you'd like to follow Thomas, you can follow him on Getter at Thomas Dowling on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.